But we begin with our big story. A judge dismisses some of the charges in that sweeping Georgia election interference case. Donald Trump and 18 co-defendants are charged with trying to overturn the 2020 election results in that state. But the judge has now ordered 6 of the criminal counts to be thrown out, including 3 against Donald Trump on the grounds that they lack detail and clarity about what the defendants are alleged to have done. The presumptive Republican presidential nominee still faces 10 counts, and the judge left open the possibility that prosecutors could refile the charges that he dismissed. This comes as that same judge weighs whether to disqualify District Attorney Fani Willis and her office from the case over accusations that she financially benefited from a romantic relationship with one of her top prosecutors, accusations that she denies. So joining me now for more, ABC News contributor and former Georgia prosecutor Chris Timmons. So Chris, on this ruling today by the judge, how much does it matter that some of the charges have been dismissed over this lack of clarity and detail? The rest of the case stands. What does it tell you about where the case is?
So optically, it's not in a great place. I mean, this is coming on the heels of the revelation of Fani Willis and Nathan Wade's personal relationship, which already places a cloud over the case. Add on to that you've got 6 counts that were improperly pled, and it's not been a good month for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Now, as far as the case as a whole, it's going to continue on. The court held that the RICO count, which is the big count in this particular case, is going to proceed. And even those calls and all of the activity that went on that made up the bulk of that solicitation of violation of oath of office charges that were dismissed, all of the facts behind that are still admissible and are still probably coming into trial. So it's more of an optical loss than it is really a big strategic loss. But still, anytime you lose counts out of indictment, that's a bad day for a prosecutor.
Yeah, and as you say, the evidence is still in the case. They just have to find a way to get it in, not with these counts unless they refile. We can get to that in a minute. But these charges, you say, they're related to accusations of soliciting elected officials to violate their oaths of office under the U.S. and Georgia constitutions. And that includes 2 charges related to that now infamous phone call between Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Let's take a listen to that.
Look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Well, a lot of people who heard that, they thought, well, that's pretty clear what Donald Trump is trying to do. And there is a very nice, neat, tidy Georgia law that you can't interfere with elections. This is a sprawling case. It is a RICO case. Is that part of the problem here, that this case was overcharged or made too complex?
I don't know, Terry, if it was overcharged. I mean, you've got a lot of ground that a RICO indictment can cover. I've tried probably more RICO cases than anybody else here in the state of Georgia. And so, anytime you bring a RICO case, it's going to be a sprawling case. It's going to be a sprawling indictment. What we looked to in the past is the Atlanta Public Schools cheating scandal case. It was a RICO case that was brought about 10 years ago. And that also was a sprawling case. All that means is it's going to take a long time to try, that you've got a lot of evidence for the jury to keep track of. But this is definitely a case where the jury's going to be paying attention. And so I don't think that necessarily losing those charges is evidence that the case is overcharged, but rather that it wasn't charged properly, that it wasn't charged perfectly, which is what you've got to do when you bring a charge that's then challenged by a special demur, or an argument that says that the indictment wasn't proper because it didn't have enough information to tell the judges what they were, or tell the defendants what they were charged with, Terry.
Right, God, that was the grounds for this. You mentioned the optics of this case. The judge now has this decision before him. Should he disqualify Fani Willis over the defense motion based on the allegation that she had an improper romantic relationship with the prosecutor she hired and paid public money to, which the allegation continues she might have benefited from that public money when she took vacations with that gentleman. How much does this factor into the case? Is this a distraction? Do you think the judge is going to take the step to disqualify Fani Willis?
So the question is, Terry, what legal standard they're going to use, or what legal standard Judge McAfee is going to use when he makes the decision whether to disqualify or not. There are 2 potential legal standards that are in play, and the law's a little confusing in this area, one of which is an appearance of impropriety. Does it look bad? And it's got to be a significant appearance of impropriety. The second one is conflict of interest. Is there something here that represents a conflict between doing justice or doing what's right for Fani Willis and Nathan Wade personally? To get to a conflict of interest type standard, I don't think that the Judge McAfee is going to find that the evidence here rises to the level of creating a conflict of interest or proving a conflict of interest. But I think that there may be enough here if the judge goes on the standard of appearance of impropriety. We'll have to see. I mean, just depends on what the judge wants to do. Interestingly enough, if you look at today's decision, there's a little bit of an inkling that he might grant an appeal. The appeals here are discretionary, meaning that they're up to the judge as to whether or not he's going to allow an appeal to go forward. And he said today in one of the footnotes of this opinion that, look, state, you lost these 6 charges. And if you want a discretionary appeal, I'll let you have it. I'll exercise my discretion and let you have an appeal. We may see the same thing in the decision when it comes out on the disqualification.
Well, that's an invitation to delay, isn't it? I mean, one of the things the prosecutors have to decide is, do they want to refile? And that could restart the clock in this case, which would push a trial much later on. And the judges, you think, may also offer the Trump team, if he finds, that they could appeal, interlocutory appeal, is that what they call it, or an appeal during the case?
Yeah, sorry. We lawyers love to interject bigger words when we don't have to, Terry. So I apologize for that. But it basically just means a discretionary appeal or an appeal that happens in the middle of the case. And so here he could grant what's called an interlocutory appeal or discretionary appeal to let either the issue of these special demurs, the dismissed counts, go forward. But what the judge said in the decision today was that he'd let the state appeal it since they lost. Now that they don't get an appeal as of right, they can't just appeal it because they lost those 6 counts. They have to get permission from the court, and the court said he'd get it. That's the same thing with regard to disqualification. It's something where it's got to be the judge's discretion to allow the appeal to go forward. And here he may have tipped his hat that he's going to let the defense or the state appeal this issue.
All right, well, the Trump team would undoubtedly take that up and would delay the case past the election. Chris Timmons, great seeing you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it.
Well, now let's bring this big story to our panel. And joining us today, ABC News contributor and SiriusXM radio host Mike Muse, ABC News contributor, former New York Republican Congressman John Katko, and Democratic strategist Alencia Johnson, and ABC News contributor and op-ed columnist for the LA Times, LZ Granderson. So, Mike, let me start with you. Putting all the legal aspects aside, is this decision from the judge in Trump's case on dismissing a few of the counts on, detail and clarity lacking, is that a victory, really, for Trump?
It's a victory for Trump in the sense of the court of public opinion. At any time that the Trump campaign and Trump team is able to say that they were able to get counts dismissed, goes along with their narrative that this is a political hack job and that these charges are unnecessary. When it comes to the court of law, this actually doesn't have much of a significant impact because it doesn't eliminate the substance of the foundation, which is the RICO charges. But that's just become a matter of now of, how does the state prosecute it? How do they characterize this? Also, too, how does the Trump legal team, how do they characterize it in the court of public opinion?
And John, as a former federal prosecutor, what do you think here? Republicans and Trump said this is just the DA playing politics, and here the judge has found these issues with these charges. Does it bolster Trump?
From a legal standpoint, absolutely not. Mike is spot on. Think about it. The most devastating count in this case withstood their arguments, and it's still there. That's a RICO case. And the RICO case is going to allow all the evidence to come in, right, including evidence from those counts which were dismissed. And that's the thing that's going to be the devastating one for Trump. And when you try these cases, I've tried RICO cases, I can tell you, once that evidence starts coming in, it's like an avalanche, man. It starts coming downhill and picking up steam, and a jury hears all this disparate criminal conduct piece by piece, and they just say, guilty, everybody. And that's why you have such a high conviction rate on RICO cases. And the president should be very concerned about this still going forward.
And LZ, on this case, there is the specter of what's happening with Fani Willis and the investigation that happened, on national television into the allegation that some of Trump's lawyers have made that she had this improper relationship with the prosecutor she hired, benefited from the public money she paid him when they went on vacation together. How big a deal is that?
Well, you know, it's similar to what Mike and John has been saying in the sense that it feels more of an optics thing than something that's actually tangible or something provable in terms of evidence of her benefiting from this. With that being said, I think it's also important to talk about the whole context of their relationship in the sense that she tried to get other people to go forward with this case. She tried diligently. And so it wasn't that she just went directly to someone that she knew. She actually cast a wide net and ended up with the best possible person. And it just happened to be someone that she had a prior relationship with.
And Alencia, I guess there's the court of public opinion. This was a case where you've got Trump on tape saying, fellas, just find me 11,780 votes or whatever it is, and now has, for many, perhaps a cloud over it because of the judgment, whatever the court rules, for Fani Willis being in relationship with this prosecutor. How much has it drawn away from the public legitimacy, perception of legitimacy of this prosecution?
Well, I think it's interesting. It's a matter of who you ask, because there are a lot of people that saw the Fani Willis hearings and question why we are going after someone's personal life when there is a man who literally was a sitting president trying to overturn an election. That is who should be on trial. And there are a lot of people, obviously Democrats, but independents, and people who are viewing this through that lens of, this actually isn't what we should be talking about. We should be talking about this election interference that our nation hasn't really seen. And so I actually am looking forward to this judge making his decisions about who will preside over this so we can move forward with the serious charges that the former president is facing.
Those still
and Terry,
remain.
if I can interject quickly.
You bet.
During jury selection process, the jurors, potential jurors, will have to certify that they know nothing about the case. And that means they know nothing about all these pretrial machinations. So it really is not going to be relevant once the bell rings.
Right, which could be as early as this summer or later. Mike, John, Alencia, and LZ, thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.